were not told to unpack. They were just put in a barracks. And then they were told to go down and get on a ship. And they were not told why. They were taken to a little island just off of a place called North Korea. And everything was unloaded there at that little island, and they put up their antenna. They were radio and radar. And they put up their antenna and put up their Quonset huts inside of caves, and they thought that was a little strange. They just told them to put them in those caves, and they did. A few days later, we were in a conflict that everyone in the world knew about called the Korean War. I think officially it's a conflict. My dad lived on that island, was strafed, bombed, all kinds of stuff happened. But he lived on that island until after the Korean conflict was over with. And I asked him, I said, Dad, how did you handle the pressure, the stress of that? I mean, it was happening almost on a daily basis sometimes. He said, I handled it the same way that most everybody else did. When I got on the ship, I knew I was going to war. And I counted it all lost. I wasn't coming back, so I might as well do the very best I could to do my job. Today we're honoring a lot of young men who never came back, and a lot of young ladies who never came back, who gave all they had to give because they went to war. And what they would tell you if they were standing here now is, I don't know, I was just doing my job. That job was keeping our freedom. That job was keeping us safe. That job was keeping everything that we hold dear in this country. But they was just doing the job. Does that take something special? Yes and no. The greatest example of this was a virgin-born birth that happened in Bethlehem. How many times did Jesus make a statement like, I'm just here to do the Father's will. I'm just doing what the Father wants me to do. All the way to the cross, all the way to when he said, it is finished. He was doing his job. What do you mean? He was doing what he came here to do. Now, when I say it like that, don't make that, that's not trivial. What I wonder is, are we doing what we were sent here to do? Are we truly doing our job? Please watch the video.
Well, it's a good way to start. I hate to make these announcements and things like in the middle of that, but I've never seen that one before. That's very good, very good. We want to I guess you could say, just tell them up in heaven right now how much we appreciate what they have fought, bled, and died for, and everything. We can have this freedom to come here this morning. So many take it for granted, and I'm not starting the message yet, but I sure do want to. But guys, we're so blessed. First thing I want to do this morning is welcome our visitors. They're kinfolk over on the Campbell side of the family, and it's good to have y'all. God bless you. Thank you for coming. Come from over at Laneview Baptist Church, Brother Nicky McMahon's church. So, honored to have you. Thank you. And we have birthdays and things like that went on this week. I think that I was told by a little old man that his wife Lucy had one this week. Lucy, you want to stand up? God bless you, girl. Well, I'm not going to ask you how many it is now, because you just don't ask a woman her age. But we're going to sing happy birthday to you. How's that? All right. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, God bless you. Happy birthday to you. And many more. All right. Thank you for standing for us and accepting our happy birthday wishes. All right. Okay. Any anniversaries? Anybody? Was that enough for one day? Okay. Said that Miss Brenda had a birthday this week too. Is that right? All right. So y'all had one together. Y'all eat the same birthday cake? You have one, she had one. Oh, okay. Well, that's godly love right there. If you can share. All right. Everybody wants their own cake and eat it too. All right. We have a few announcements. On May the 26th, which is today, we'll have no evening service. We have a lot of people that's celebrating today. They're off. We have some that's working. They've gone up to help Jeremy Redmond. He had started a house up at Buchanan. And we need to pray for those that volunteer their time to help a friend. I believe that's a godly thing. And pray for them, for their safety and what they're trying to do. On June the 1st, which is this coming next Saturday, the Women's Bible Study at 11 a.m. Bring your favorite finger foods. They're studying Beth Moore's David, Seeking a Heart Like His. And I appreciate Miss Debbie so much for leading out in this. So, ladies, y'all please make a note of that and come and support that. They always have a good time. I think I said last Sunday that I was going to disguise myself and dress up in a dress and sort of slip in and get in on the finger foods and all the hoopla there. But I've had second thoughts. If they can't accept me like I am, that's too bad. Have too many people trying to transgender this day and time. You know, I don't want to get in on that crowd. Let them have that. So I got to get out away from that anyway. All right, on Saturday, June the 29th, we're having a cancer benefit for Jeremy Redmond. Any of those that wants to work, help out. Due to the size, this thing has grown, and the community center being leased out to a group of people. There's a 100-year-old lady that's having a birthday that day. They're going to have the parking lot with tents and stuff set up for her. A lady that's 100 years old got a lot of kinfolks. So they'll have that. So it's worked out great that all the other churches and everything in town has volunteered. That area over there on Church Street, there's going to be silent auctions. A whole bunch of stuff has already been donated. Other activities, there'll be food, to be purchased. They need people to help cook. They are going to have a car show. They've already got 27 cars lined up for that car show. It's just going to be a big thing. I know God is blessing this. I know God's in it. I'm not jealous one bit because it's all about helping Jeremy. On your bulletin this morning, what I saw on there that caught my eye, it says, "Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends." I think it's a great thing when men lay down their lives and their time and their resources for a friend. I think that's a great thing. So y'all be much in prayer for this benefit for Jeremy. Pray for his health. That's the greatest gift that he could be given right now, is his health. On Sunday, June the 16th, be Father's Day, and we'll not have any service that night. So, but pray about our Sunday afternoon services, which meet at 4 o'clock. The start group that we have has been real successful, and we have several people to come visit with us. This is for people that have had problems in their life and trying to quit addictions, and even those that want to quit smoking are coming. And it's been really good. We have good testimonies to come out of that. And then we have Bible study at 5 o'clock. We've been going through the Bible. We started at the front, and we're working through Exodus right now. We got through Genesis, and we love questions, and we have real good discussions. So it's a good time to learn about the Bible, go through it, and if I don't know the answer to a question, I'll find somebody that does, and it's going to be biblical. It's going to be an answer that's going to have Bible, 100% Bible behind it. Do we have any other announcements or anything maybe I've forgotten or not mentioned? Okay. I'm going to ask Brother James, since he's not having to play the piano today, and he's kind of relaxing and everything, for him and Lonnie, if they would come and take our morning offering at this time. We ask that you give as God is blessed. God has truly blessed us. We're here this morning. And hey, I didn't go through we think about those that have given up their lives. I think about so many times I've seen the movies that were made, World War II, when the men would be storming the beaches and they'd float in on those boats and scared to death. You can't be brave enough in a conflict when it takes time, and you know that your time may be just short-lived. A few seconds from now, you're fixing to get off of that boat and everything's coming at you. And so many died, and those men were sick. I saw a picture of a man that was holding a cross. He was rubbing that cross, fixing to get off of that boat. How do you prepare yourself? There's so many things that's going on in the world today. We think about these people that have cancers and the conflicts of their lives. And I think about the people behind the scenes. And this is not even what I had planned to start off with. But you think about the mothers that bore those children, the daughters and the sons that died. You think about the fathers that had worked and raised those children to try to teach them right from wrong, and you send them off. You think about the grandparents, and they look at those children as their posterity. I mean, they're carrying on the lineage of that family. There's so many things that you look at and it is abruptly stopped. The children that may not ever see that parent again, they've given their lives. And how many days out of the year do we think about this thing? And I'm thinking about it today. It really don't affect me. I'll be honest. It don't affect me all those other 364 days. But today or tomorrow, we take time to honor those that never made it home. As Ronald Reagan said, that they never got to be parents, or they may never have got to be a grandparent, or even to get married, or to try to have a family. These things are things that we think about. What I did prepare, I wanted you to know a little bit how this got started, was that Memorial Day, or Declaration Day is sometimes called, is a patriotic holiday in the United States. It is a day to honor Americans who gave their lives for their country. Originally, Memorial Day honored military personnel who died in the Civil War. It now honors those that died in Spanish-American War, World Wars I and II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Iraq War, and other conflicts that are going on throughout the world. The United States has its hands in just about everything. It's trying to establish peace, and I'm proud of that. Memorial Day was made an official holiday in 1971, and it is celebrated on the fourth Monday in May each year. Now, I didn't think too much about this all of my life, but the older that I get, the more that I think about how privileged that we are to be here, just to be here today, to have made it this far. I feel like I'm getting closer to being over the hill that these other people just never even tried to climb, didn't have the opportunity. They were young, they were full of life, full of energy, able to fight, able to go and do what I haven't done. And I think about those that were drafted, that didn't have the opportunity to volunteer. Many have volunteered in these wars and conflicts. But I know what it feels like to go and sign up for the draft. That means that I could have been called. Lonnie knows what it feels like. Me and him had signed up about the same time, and to go and get the newspaper and to see when they do that date every year for the draft, they had a big old cage, just like a bingo thing, and they had each and every day of the year in there, and they roll that thing and they'd pull a date. If you were born on that date, every man at that time that was eligible for the draft, your number was coming up. And I remember the one that we got just as we were graduating as seniors, and Lonnie's date come up number 11. That was a thinking time, wasn't it, Lonnie? I mean, we had those things like that. Mine was about 80 something, somewhere along in there. So I had a little bit more time. But along about that time, then during the Vietnam War, things started slowing down, and our numbers were never called up. I thank God for that. But more than that, I thank God for those that did serve and stand for something. We were fighting communism. Now, all of these conflicts have to deal with the same thing, is fighting evil. The good versus the evil. We have spiritual warfare that goes on in our lives today, and that spiritual warfare deals with good and evil. And I believe I said something about last Sunday in a message that we have choices. And if you have the good choice or the bad choice, and I said, if you, all of you that wants to make the right choice, the good choice, you sit on this side, and all of y'all that wants to make the bad choice or the choice that's going to mess up your life forever, you sit on this other side. Which side would you choose? Well, you know, everybody wants to stick their hand up and say, I want the good, I want the good, I want the good. When we accept Jesus Christ into our lives and we're saying, I want the good in my life, I want to serve Jesus, what happens to us along about that time? The spiritual warfare is on, buddy. I'm telling you, it's on. He is a devious person. He is a spiritual person, and he will mess up your life just like that. It's on. From the very second that you say yes to Jesus, you're going to fight a battle. And that battle is going to be won or lost by your choice. You may say you don't have a choice. You have a choice, and that is to do good or to do evil. I've had a problem all of my life, and some of y'all might understand what I'm going through, and it was worse when I was younger. It was about these little things, these small sins that people say, well, you know, this don't amount to much, and it's not going to hurt if you do this thing or that thing. You know, I have always had a problem with these people that say, well, social drinking is that's not a bad thing. You know, just a little drink here or there. It's not going to hurt. Or what about, you know, that look that you may look at a person of the opposite sex and things go through your mind. What about all of these other sins? And hey, guys, I'm going to be tempted real bad when I sit behind the steering wheel and I look down at that speedometer and it says 65 and I'm in a 55. James knows what I'm talking about. He's got that smile. What about that? You know, it's not hurt. I'm just a few miles over the speed limit. What about 4, 5, 6 mile an hour over the speed limit? You know, how far do we carry? It's a sin. It is. I'm telling you, it's just. Is there any big sins or little sins? Not in God's eyes. Sin is sin. I mean, it makes. I mean, just like lights out. When we see how that God sees things in our lives, what does He see? The smallest sin separates us from God. Do you understand that? The smallest sin. And I think about how to get right with God and how to stay right with God and do the right things, and I try, and God knows. But some verses that I've chosen today out of Matthew and Mark are basically the same word for word. And I'm going to read these two. And it's all about Jesus, and Jesus was fixing to die. They was fixing to tell lies on him and beat him and spit on him and nail him to the cross and all this. They wanted to do away with him because he was good, and it was messing up their status quo of religious worshiping at that time because they were making money. They had power. They were with the government, the Jewish leaders of that time. And in Matthew 26, we find these verses. I want to do verse 6 through 13, Roy. And as I read this, something was going on. This was an anointing that was taking place in the simplest way. And because one person does something good, other people are jealous. Have you ever noticed that? When you try to do good, there's a jealousy going on. And the scriptures say, and when Jesus was in Bethany at the house of Simon the leper, a woman came to him having an alabaster flask of very costly fragrant oil, and she poured it on his head as he sat at the table. But when his disciples saw it, they were indignant, saying, "Why this waste? For this fragrant oil might have been sold for much and given to the poor." Now, these verses next that I read in Mark are almost word for word. But when Jesus was aware of it, he said to them, he set them straight, "Why do you trouble the woman? For she has done a good work for me. For you have the poor with you always, but me you do not have always. For in pouring this fragrant oil on my body, she did it for my burial. Assuredly, I say to you, wherever this gospel is preached in the whole world, what this woman has done will also be told as a memorial to her." And then Mark 14:6-9, the word says, "But Jesus said," now this is almost word for word, "Let her alone. Why do you trouble her? She has done a good work for me. For you have the poor with you always, and whenever you wish, you may do them good. But me you do not have always. She has done what she could. She has come beforehand to anoint my body for burial. Assuredly, I say to you, wherever this gospel is preached in the whole world, what this woman has done will also be told as a memorial to her." You don't find many verses like that in the Bible, but where you find them, and they are repeated. Now, these two disciples had been with Jesus, and they told it just like it was. And most times when you find 2 or 3 disciples have been with Jesus, you'll get 3 different answers. But I was amazed to see that these were almost word for word in these 2 different scriptures right here. But this woman was memorialized. Now, why was this? Where was the men that were memorialized? This is. Do y'all know of anyone else that was memorialized in this way? This woman memorialized Jesus Christ. I know that Peter loved Jesus, and then Jesus told him, he said, "You're going to deny me 3 times before in the morning before the rooster crows." Don't we do the same things? When was the last time that we memorialized Jesus? Do you know that every Sunday out of the 52 weeks of the year, we have a day a week where we can memorialize Jesus? That's what church is all about. We should be coming here expecting to honor Him, praise Him, glorify Him. It's all about Jesus. And lots of times we get caught up in the rat race. Well, I've got this job to do. I've got to teach class. And we're worried about that, which doesn't matter to a hill of beans. If you're the teacher that you're supposed to be, Jesus is going to take care of that. It's going to happen. We've got no worries. We've got no cares when we're doing the work for Jesus. The pastor, he worries about things that he shouldn't be worried about, because 90% of the time when he makes his notes and everything, those things, you see a lot of people just throwing them up in there. Well, that's about the way mine goes. And then we have the song leader that worries about the songs, and I try to encourage and say, don't worry about it. God's got this. Because so many times he and I have talked about in the service that the songs go right along with the message, that I have no idea what songs they're going to sing. Every one of the things that were played this morning, hey, that was news to me. So many things that we worry about is we just need to come with a free heart. We need to come here just expecting the Lord just to, when we pour out our memorializing spirit on Him, guess who gets blessed? We do. We do. How many times have you ever gone to visit somebody in a nursing home or gone to their house wondering what you're going to say to help cheer them up, and you come away, guess what? They have blessed you. When we try to memorialize someone in the right way, guess what? We're blessed. We're blessed. We've got so much work to do, and yet we can't find the time to do it, or we don't take the time to do it. You know, God is in everything we do. I was thinking about a letter that a Gideon father had gotten back in the Desert Storm. His son went over to Iraq. And he wrote back home to his dad. He said, Dad said, this thing was over just in a matter of days. He said that the United States had sent over 600,000 body bags over there. We had 1 million people over there at one time at that Desert Storm. And only less than 100 were killed. Is that not answered prayer? In a land which is Muslim dominated, the Saudi Arabians would not allow them to carry alcoholic beverages or magazines of any kind, but they did allow the Gideons to ship 1 million testaments over there. And the people, the Army, Air Force, whoever was stationed there, they all got one. But since they couldn't do none of these other recreational things, guess what the recreational consisted of? Was reading the Bible. They said that they had a lot of those service people that got saved. They got saved there, and they had baptisms out there in the desert. You might say, well, Brother Billy, how'd they do that? And that young man said that they took a bulldozer and they dug out holes and they lined it with plastic and they filled it with water and they baptized them out there in the desert. That was an honor, wasn't it? Hey, there was so many things going on. But get this. In the Desert Storm, those Iraqis had planted landmines everywhere. They had this nerve gas that they were fixing to shoot at our guys. The night before they were getting ready to go in and take the Iraqi army, guess what it did in the desert? It rained. And it washed the sand off of the landmines. Also, the wind that was blowing toward the Iraqis that night, it was blowing away from them the day before toward the United States, which would have carried the nerve gas to them, changed in the night, and they couldn't shoot their nerve gas at our guys. Is this a God thing or what? Did y'all know that? I'm honored to be able to tell this story. But that's not all of it. In every conflict that we've ever had, God has been in it. We stand for Him. We represent Him. We still call our nation a Christian nation, one nation under God. I hope it always stands that way. but I thought that was worth telling about. I had a story that I had found. I like these little stories. I was talking about a private, and the soldier one day went to the doctor, and he was disturbed because he was a chain smoker. All right, I'm not picking on anybody intentionally. I just thought this was a good one right here. But he couldn't get rid of the habit. And he had tried, so he went to the doctor there. And he said, "Doc, these cigarettes are killing me. You know, I'm smoking 2 packs a day and I can't stop. Doc, do something. I need something to deliver me." And the military doctor looked at him and said, "Okay, on my lapel, you see 2 bars. Tell me what they represent." "They represent the fact that you are a captain," the private said. "What are you?" Then the soldier said, "Well, I'm just a private." Then who's in charge here? Between the captain and the private, who's in charge? He said, "Well, you are, because you're the captain." "Okay, then as your captain, I command you to stop smoking permanently, beginning right now, and you must obey my orders." What do? Some of you guys have been in the military. When the captain says to do something, what do? You do it. He didn't have no medicine or anything to give him, so this man, he just quit. And that man had been smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day for a long time, stopped smoking right then and right there. Going back to that speeding thing I was talking about, what does our Bible say to do? It tells us in the 10 Commandments. We got 10 commandments. First one is to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy might. Do we do that? The second one, what the young man told Jesus that knew the commandments, is to love thy neighbor as thyself. Do we do that? And I'm sure somewhere in there that God knew that there would be a speed law someday, 55. What about all the other laws we've been given that have come off? If we just obeyed these 10 commandments, we'd have it made. But then we find these little commandments that we are given. I don't know how many laws that we have in this land today, because we want to sort of break it down. This really don't mean this or that. So how do you break it down to where, like the captain said, I command you to stop? Isn't that what the 10 Commandments say? Why do they call it commandments? God was commanding at that time. There was, y'all remember the Beverly Hillbillies? Now, what we're talking about is spiritual warfare here. But the spiritual blessings that are in our lives are those things that we haven't seen. Do you believe that you're blessed? Do you believe that God is going to bless you? Some of you are millionaires and don't know it. You're so blessed. Do you remember Beverly Hillbillies? Old Jed Clampett, Jethro, Ellie Mae, Granny, all them. Well, old Jed found out one day that he was a millionaire. When did he become a millionaire? If he was born on that farm in them hills, when did he become a millionaire? When he was born. He just didn't know it. Some of us jump through our skin to try to do things that we're really not capable of, when all the time, if we just take it easy, the blessings are there. When we come to church, we are expecting a blessing. Why? First of all, I think we need to come to bless God. With that on our mind, when we come to our house of worship, we are here to bless God. And anything over that spills over on us. And guess what? We've got blessings coming. We've got to know what to look for in those spiritual blessings. We think about the concept of spiritual death. What happens is in that. And we talk about once saved, always saved. We know that the Bible tells us that before we were ever born, God knew us. So, when was that? We can't even imagine how far ahead that God thinks. He's got this whole thing planned. But His blessing is that everyone should be saved. If you look at John 3:16, and I say this verse in every service I believe I've ever preached, for God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in Him should not perish but have everlasting life. Now, who did that whosoever cover? It covered everyone that's ever been born. God's plan is for all of us to be in heaven with Him someday. Will we get back to these blessings? Some people say, I don't believe in God. And so what does that do? That separates that person and God. The only way that we can come to God when we come to an age of accountability is to believe in Him. And for a child, when I was saved at 13 years old, it wasn't that hard for me to be saved. Was I gullible? I don't think so. I think that the picture was so plain for me as a young man, a young boy, that I saw Jesus easier than a grown man would that had rebelled against God all of his life, wanting to do his own thing, to do his bidding anywhere he wanted to do, and then that person come to know Jesus. It's a rare thing to see an older person saved, ain't it? It's a rare thing. But who left who? There's an old song that goes by, he was there all the time. Y'all remember that? Some of the older guys, y'all might remember that. He was there all the time. And that's so very true. God has been there before we were ever created. I'm finding out that I'm just a little bitty fella. Sometimes I feel like that I am so little that I could walk under a brick bat sitting on a concrete floor and reach up and try to touch the brick bat and still can't touch the brick bat. That's how low I feel like that I am sometimes. But that's how big my God is. I hope you understand. I hope that you believe in the same God that I'm talking about, because my God is big. He supplies my needs, and He goes over and above. He will, and He can do it over and above my expectations. A luxury car company had a powerful commercial some time ago. There were two dummies in the car. Engineers were going to crash the car into a wall in order to show how sturdy and solid the Lexus was. What caught my attention when I saw this commercial was what the dummies looked like. They were dressed in suits and ties. One dummy had a hat on. The other dummy had his hand on the wheel, sporting an expensive watch. They were good-looking dummies headed toward a brick wall. When we go to our cars after church with our nice dresses and our nice suits and we sit in our nice vehicles, the question is, are you a dummy behind a wheel? Those dummies in the commercial were looking good, but they were headed toward disaster. So it is possible to be a good-looking dummy. Many people are walking around today spiritually dead, but don't know it. I wonder. And this message goes out on the radio to everybody out there in the radio land that's listening to this. Now, this will be put on next Sunday morning. Are you a spiritual dummy? Do you know Jesus? My answer to you is get to know him personally, because he loves you and he cares for you and he wants you to be with him. From the day that you were conceived in God's mind thousands and thousands of years ago, his idea for you was to be in paradise with him. You know where paradise is? It's here on earth, really. If you think about it, God created Adam and Eve and had them in the garden. That was his concept of paradise. That's where he wants us to be. And he walked with them and he talked with them daily. He wants us to do that. From the time that we say yes to Jesus, we need to be walking and talking and loving him. He is so close to you, but yet some people can't reach out and touch him. We don't have to worry about him touching us or us touching him, because he's already touched me. He's in my heart. He's in my life. And I want him to stay there. I want him to be my captain. I want him to be my ruler. I want him to be my all in all. And I hope you do this morning. We have so many things in our lives. We have been given so many gifts. One is the gift of freedom. We have been given the gift of life itself. And it's amazing to me that how that we complain, and when we're in perfect health, we can walk around and we can work and we can talk, and we have so many things we could be doing that would glorify God in our lives by helping others, but yet we want to complain. You know, the object of this game of life that we play is to be more like Jesus, right? He wrote the rule book. We have it. It was a conception from the beginning of time. We have the histories. We have everything that we could possibly want in these 66 books that's wrapped up in one. And the story is the same. So many different writers and so many different variances of times, and all this has been put together, but yet the one subject that we all see is Jesus. Do you know him? Don't you want to know him? I tell you, folks, we have been blessed so much, but yet sometimes I feel like one of those dummies. When I get ready to leave church, whichever direction I go, if I go toward a restaurant or if I go toward home, we've got a graduation to go to this afternoon at 2 o'clock. Am I a dummy, or am I a gift of God? What are you today? I don't want to call nobody a dummy. I want to call you a child of God. We're all his children. Basically, when we get the full picture, till this life is over and we stand before God, if we're saved, we'll stand with Jesus. If we're lost, we'll stand before God, and every knee will bow and every tongue will confess. As much as you want to say that there is no God, there is God. And he loves you. You've been told